The woman's scream cut through the airport terminal like a knife as three men in black suits dragged her toward the emergency exit. Jackson Sullivan had exactly $43 in his wallet, a 6-year-old daughter waiting at home, and 10 seconds to decide if he'd get involved. The men weren't security. Their movements were too aggressive, too coordinated. The woman's designer heels scraped against the polished floor as she fought, her terror-filled eyes locking with his for just a moment. That's when Jackson made the choice that would transform his ordinary life into something extraordinary. He didn't know she was Kiana Ford, CEO of a billion-dollar empire. He didn't know her own business partner wanted her dead. He just knew someone needed help, and walking away wasn't an option. Follow my story to the end, and comment the city you are watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Jackson Sullivan had learned to recognize desperation in all its forms. He saw it every morning in the mirror, in the bills stacked on his kitchen counter, in the worn soles of his work boots that he couldn't afford to replace. Today, he saw it in a stranger's eyes at Denver International Airport. The terminal buzzed with the usual chaos of travelers rushing to gates, families reuniting, and announcements echoing through the massive space. Jackson stood at the baggage claim, waiting for the single duffel bag that contained everything from his failed job interview in Phoenix. 3 days away from home, $78 spent on the cheapest motel he could find, all for a warehouse supervisor position that went to someone with more recent management experience. Translation: someone who hadn't spent the last 3 years working double shifts at a shipping depot while raising a daughter alone. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Yates, his neighbor who watched Lily after school. She's asking when you'll be home. Made you a welcome back card with glitter. Lots of glitter. You're welcome. Despite everything, Jackson smiled. Lily was 6 years old, obsessed with space and astronauts, and believed her father could do anything. He was terrified of the day she'd realize he was just barely keeping them afloat. The baggage carousel lurched to life, and Jackson positioned himself to grab his bag quickly. He had exactly 90 minutes to catch the shuttle to the economy parking lot, drive home, relieve Mrs. Yates, and get to his night shift at the depot. His manager had been clear. Miss another shift, and he was done. That's when he heard it. Not a scream exactly, but a sharp cry of protest that cut through the ambient noise. Jackson's head turned instinctively toward the sound, his body responding before his mind caught up. Years of training didn't just disappear because you'd traded a uniform for civilian clothes. A woman in an elegant navy business suit stumbled near the exit doors, surrounded by 3 men in dark clothing. To anyone casually watching, it might have looked like business associates helping an intoxicated colleague. But Jackson saw the details others missed. The way her heels dragged against the floor as she tried to plant her feet, the white-knuckled grip one man had on her upper arm, the other hand clamped over her mouth, the raw terror in her eyes as they darted around desperately seeking help. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. In that brief moment, Jackson saw a silent plea, a desperate hope that someone, anyone, would notice what was really happening. The men were moving her toward an emergency exit, the kind that led to service corridors and loading docks, places without cameras or witnesses. One of them wore an earpiece. Another kept his hand inside his jacket in a way that suggested a weapon. The third man, tall with silver-streaked hair, moved with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Jackson's duffel bag tumbled past on the carousel. He didn't reach for it. Every rational part of his brain screamed at him to look away. He had Lily to think about, He couldn't afford to get involved, couldn't risk injury or arrest or anything that might jeopardize the fragile stability he'd built for his daughter. The smart thing, the responsible thing, was to alert security and let them handle it. But the woman's eyes had found his again, and this time they held something that cut straight through his practical concerns. Absolute terror, mixed with fading hope. Like someone watching their last lifeline slip away. Jackson moved. He didn't run, didn't shout, didn't do anything to draw attention. Instead, he walked with purpose toward the emergency exit, pulling out his phone and holding it to his ear as if taking a call. Just another traveler heading outside for better reception. The men had already pushed through the exit door, the woman still struggling weakly between them. Jackson caught the door before it closed completely, slipping through into the stark concrete service corridor beyond. The space was empty except for the 4 figures ahead. The woman now fighting harder as they dragged her toward a black SUV idling by a loading dock. No cameras visible, no witnesses. Perfect for a kidnapping. "Hey!" Jackson's voice echoed off the concrete walls. "You guys need some help?" The 3 men froze, turning in unison. The tall one, clearly the leader, assessed Jackson with cold calculation. His hand moved inside his jacket. "We're fine," the man said, his voice smooth and professional. "Just helping our colleague. She had too much to drink." The woman made a muffled sound behind the hand still covering her mouth. Her eyes were wild, pleading. Jackson walked closer, keeping his hands visible and his posture non-threatening. "Funny, she doesn't look drunk. Looks more like she doesn't want to go with you." "Sir, this is a private matter." The leader's tone hardened. "I suggest you return to the terminal." "Can't do that." Jackson stopped about 10 feet away, close enough to act but far enough to react. "See? If I walk away and something happens to her, I won't be able to live with myself. Got a daughter at home. What kind of example would I be setting?" The second man, stocky with a shaved head, released the woman's arm and moved toward Jackson. "You need to leave. Now." "Let her speak for herself," Jackson said calmly. "If she says she wants to go with you, I'll walk away. Deal?" The leader considered this, then nodded to the man holding the woman. The hand came away from her mouth. "Help me." The woman's voice was hoarse but clear. "They're kidnapping me. Please, they're going to kill me." The leader sighed, almost disappointed. That was unwise. Everything happened fast. The stocky man lunged at Jackson, who sidestepped and drove his elbow into the man's kidney. As the attacker doubled over, Jackson grabbed the back of his head and slammed it into the concrete wall. The man crumpled. The third man, thin with nervous eyes, pulled a gun from a shoulder holster. Jackson was already moving, closing the distance before the weapon could level. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisting hard while driving his knee into the man's stomach. The gun clattered to the ground. The leader had drawn his own weapon now, a sleek black pistol pointed directly at Jackson's chest. "Impressive. Military?" "Used to be," Jackson said, breathing hard. The woman stood frozen between them. "Long time ago." "Well, former soldier, you've put me in a difficult position." The leader's finger rested on the trigger. "I can't leave witnesses." "Shoot me in an airport service corridor?" Bold move. "How long before security responds to the gunshot?" The leader smiled coldly. "Suppressor, and by the time anyone investigates, we'll be long gone." He was right. Jackson had gambled and lost. He'd saved the woman only to get them both killed. Then the service door burst open, and 2 actual airport security guards rushed in, hands on their holstered weapons. "Drop the gun. Now." The leader hesitated for a crucial second, weighing his options. Then he lowered the weapon, hands rising in surrender. His men groaned on the ground behind him. As the guards moved in to secure the situation, the woman stumbled toward Jackson, her legs barely holding her. He caught her before she collapsed. "Thank you," she whispered, her whole body shaking. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "It's okay," Jackson said quietly, helping her stay upright. "You're safe now." But even as he said it, even as airport police flooded the corridor and paramedics were called, Jackson saw the leader's cold smile before they cuffed him. That smile said this wasn't over. Not even close. The airport security office was cramped and overheated, filled with monitors showing various terminal angles and two exhausted-looking guards, who clearly hadn't expected their shift to include an attempted kidnapping. Jackson sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, giving his statement for the third time while his phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Mrs. Yates and his depot supervisor. The woman, whose name he'd learned was Kiana Ford, sat across from him wrapped in a blanket someone had provided. The paramedics had checked her for injuries and found only bruises where the men had gripped her arms. Physically, she was fine. Emotionally, she looked like she was barely holding together. "Mr. Sullivan," Detective Hayes said, reviewing his notes. "You're certain you'd never seen these men before today?" "Positive. I was just picking up my bag when I saw them dragging Ms. Ford toward the exit." "And you intervened despite being outnumbered 3-1. Hayes looked skeptical. "That's either very brave or very foolish." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Little bit of both," Jackson admitted. His knuckles ached from where he'd hit the stocky man. He'd probably torn something in his shoulder too, which meant another medical bill he couldn't afford. Hayes turned to Kiana. "Ms. Ford, for the record, can you identify your attackers?" Kiana looked up, and Jackson saw her composure was a thin shell barely containing panic. "The tall one is Vincent Drake. He's the COO of my company, Nexus Biotech. The other two are private security he hired last month. I don't know their real names." "Your own COO tried to kidnap you?" Hayes' eyebrows rose. "That's quite an accusation." "It's the truth." Kiana's voice strengthened. "Vincent has been embezzling from the company. I found evidence 3 days ago. I was supposed to fly to San Francisco this morning to meet with the board and federal investigators. He must have found out." "Do you have proof of this embezzlement?" Kiana pulled a flash drive from her jacket pocket. 15 months of fraudulent transactions. Over $90 million funneled through shell companies. Everything you need is on here. Hayes took the drive carefully. "We'll need to verify this. In the meantime, Drake and his men are being held on kidnapping and assault charges. You'll both need to come to the station tomorrow to give official statements." "Detective." Kiana leaned forward. "Vincent has connections. Judges, prosecutors, people in law enforcement. If he makes bail, I won't be safe. Neither will Mr. Sullivan." "Ma'am, I understand you're shaken. But we have procedures." "Your procedures won't matter when we're both dead." Her voice cracked. "Please, you have to understand. Vincent has spent years building a network. He owns people, important people." Hayes exchanged glances with his partner, a younger woman named Officer Chen. "We'll request high bail and expedited processing of the evidence. That's the best we can do." After Hayes left to make calls, Jackson finally checked his phone. 17 missed calls, 23 texts, the most recent from his supervisor. "You're 3 hours late. Don't bother coming in tomorrow or any day after. You're fired." Jackson closed his eyes, fighting the urge to put his fist through the wall. That job had been everything. The insurance, the steady paycheck, the ability to provide for Lily. Gone because he'd helped a stranger. "I'm sorry." Kiana's voice was small. "This is my fault. You lost your job because of me. Not your fault some corporate psychopath tried to kidnap you. Still, if you hadn't intervened, then you'd probably be dead in a ditch somewhere, and I'd spend the rest of my life knowing I could have stopped it." Jackson opened his eyes, meeting hers. Some things matter more than a paycheck. Kiana studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Who are you, Jackson Sullivan?" "Nobody special. Just a guy trying to make ends meet and raise his daughter right." "You're ex-military. I saw how you moved back there. That wasn't luck or adrenaline." "Army. Did my time, got out, been working regular jobs since." He didn't mention the nightmares or the reasons he'd left active duty. "It's not relevant." Before Kiana could respond, Hayes returned, his expression grim. "We have a problem. Drake posted bail 20 minutes ago." The blood drained from Kiana's face. "How is that possible? You just arrested him." "Judge Whitmore signed off on it personally. $2 million cash." Hayes looked genuinely angry. "This stinks of corruption, but my hands are tied." Drake's lawyer argued he's a respected businessman with no prior record, and the judge agreed. "He's out, with a tracking ankle monitor and orders to stay away from you." An ankle monitor. Kiana laughed bitterly. "Vincent will have that off in an hour, and then he'll come for me." "Ms. Ford, we'll provide protection. With respect, Detective, your protection means nothing if Vincent has people inside your department." She stood abruptly. "I need to disappear, right now." "Ma'am, leaving the jurisdiction would complicate the investigation." "I don't care about complications. I care about staying alive." She turned to Jackson. "Can I hire you?" Jackson blinked. "What?" "As security, protection, whatever you want to call it. You've already proven you can handle Drake's people. I need someone I can trust, and right now, you're the only person who fits that description." "Lady, I'm not a bodyguard. I load trucks at a shipping depot. Or I did until 3 hours ago." "You neutralized 2 armed men in under 10 seconds. You're ex-military. You have nothing to lose and need money." Her eyes were desperate. "Please, I'll pay you whatever you want." Hayes interrupted. "Ms. Ford, hiring unlicensed security is legal." She cut him off. "He's a private citizen who I'm compensating for his time. Unless you're prepared to provide round-the-clock protection with officers you're certain Vincent hasn't compromised." Hayes' silence was answer enough. Jackson thought about Lily waiting at home, about the bills stacking up, about the empty promise of finding another job quickly. He thought about the cold smile on Drake's face as they'd arrested him. The certainty in Kiana's voice when she said they'd both be targets now. He also thought about his daughter's face when he explained why he'd helped a stranger at the airport. Would she be proud? Or would she resent him for putting their security at risk? $75,000, Jackson said finally. Kiana blinked. What? $75,000. That's what I need to cover 6 months of bills while I find another job, assuming this takes that long. He held her gaze. Plus hazard pay if people start shooting at me. And you agree to never contact me or my daughter after this is over. Clean break. Done. Kiana didn't hesitate. I'll wire half now, half when it's finished. Hayes looked like he wanted to object, but instead handed Jackson a card. Call me if anything happens. And Mr. Sullivan, be careful. Drake isn't just dangerous, he's connected. You're stepping into something bigger than you realize. As they left the security office, Jackson called Mrs. Yates to explain he'd be late, avoiding details. Then he and Kiana headed for the parking garage. "Where's your car?" he asked. "I took a rideshare to the airport. Vincent must have been tracking my phone." She pulled out her cell and stared at it like it was a snake. "Everything I have is on here. Banking apps, contacts, everything. If he has access." Jackson took the phone from her hands and dropped it in a trash can as they passed. Not anymore. That was a $1,500 phone. That was a tracking device. Trust me. They found Jackson's truck in the economy lot. A battered 2007 Ford Ranger held together by rust and stubbornness. Kiana looked at it doubtfully, but climbed in without comment. As Jackson started the engine, which coughed twice before catching, he noticed a black sedan 3 rows over. 2 men sat inside, watching them. "We're being followed," he said quietly. Kiana started to turn her head, but Jackson stopped her. "Don't look. Act natural." He pulled out of the parking spot slowly, heading for the exit. The sedan followed at a discreet distance. As they approached the toll booth, Jackson made his decision. Hold on. Instead of stopping at the booth, he accelerated through the wooden barrier, which splintered against the truck's grill. Alarms blared as he gunned the engine, racing toward the airport exit. Behind them, the sedan tried to follow, but got stuck trying to navigate around the destroyed booth. Jackson took advantage of the confusion, taking 3 quick turns through side streets before merging onto the highway. "They'll find us again," Kiana said, her voice shaking. "Vincent has resources, people everywhere. Then we make sure we're somewhere he doesn't expect." Jackson merged into traffic, constantly checking his mirrors. Question is, where do you go when someone with unlimited money wants you dead? Kiana was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I might know a place. It's not much, but it's off the grid. A storage facility in Aurora where I keep old company records. There's a small office inside with a couch and bathroom. Vincent wouldn't know about it. It was set up before he joined the company. Better than nothing. Direct me." As they drove through Denver's evening traffic, Jackson's phone buzzed again. "Mrs. Yates. Jackson, honey, there are 2 men in suits asking about you. They say they're with the police, but they're not showing badges. Should I be worried?" Jackson's blood went cold. They'd gone to his home, to where Lily was. "Change of plans," he said, his voice harder than steel. "We're getting my daughter first, then we disappear." The Riverside apartments had never looked more vulnerable than they did now, with dusk settling over the parking lot and shadows pooling in every corner. Jackson pulled into a spot 3 buildings away from his unit, engine idling as he scanned for threats. "Stay in the truck," he told Kiana. "Lock the doors. If anyone approaches who isn't me with a little girl, you drive away and don't look back." Jackson, not negotiable. They're already at my home, which means this situation just got exponentially worse. He pulled the keys from the ignition and placed them in her hand. "You know how to drive a stick?" "I run a $1 billion company. I can handle a manual transmission." Despite everything, Jackson almost smiled. "Figured as much. Give me 10 minutes. If I'm not back, leave." He approached his building from the rear, using the maintenance access he'd discovered during one of Lily's hide-and-seek games. The back stairwell smelled of mildew and old concrete, but it brought him to the 3rd floor without passing through the main lobby where the 2 men were likely watching. Mrs. Yates lived in 3C, 2 doors down from his unit. Jackson knocked quietly, the rhythm they'd established for emergencies. 3 quick, pause, 2 slow. The door opened immediately, revealing the 72-year-old woman who'd become more family than neighbor over the past 3 years. Behind her, Lily sat at the kitchen table working on homework, her dark hair pulled into the messy ponytail she insisted on doing herself. "Daddy." She jumped up, but Jackson held up a hand. "Stay quiet, sweetheart. We need to leave quickly." Something in his tone made Lily's eyes go wide, but she nodded, already reaching for her backpack. Smart girl. Too smart sometimes. Mrs. Yates pulled him aside, speaking low. "Those men knocked on your door first, then came here. Asked all sorts of questions about you and Lily. When I said I didn't know anything, they got aggressive. Didn't threaten me directly, but the implication was clear. Did they leave?" "About 20 minutes ago, but they're probably watching the building." She gripped his arm. "Jackson, what's happening?" "Something I can't explain right now. Can you do me a favor? If anyone asks, you haven't seen us since yesterday." "Of course, but..." "And maybe stay with your sister in Colorado Springs for a few days, just until this blows over." Mrs. Yates's face paled. "That's serious?" "That's serious." She nodded, already mentally packing. "You keep that girl safe, you hear me? She's been through enough." Jackson gathered Lily's things quickly. Clothes, her favorite stuffed astronaut, the framed photo of her mother she kept on her nightstand. Lily watched silently, her usual cheerfulness replaced by the careful quiet of someone who'd learned early that sometimes the world turned dangerous without warning. "Are we in trouble?" she asked as they headed for the back stairs. "Not trouble exactly. Just need to be somewhere else for a while." "Because of work?" Jackson hesitated. He'd always been honest with Lily, even about the hard things. She'd earned that honesty by handling her mother's death with more grace than most adults could manage. "Because I helped someone today, and some bad people are angry about it." Lily processed this, her small hand tight in his as they descended the stairs. "Did you do the right thing?" "Yeah, baby, I did." "Then we'll be okay. Mom always said good things happen to people who do right." The simple faith in her voice nearly broke him. Her mother had said that, usually while volunteering at the food bank or helping neighbors despite their own financial struggles. Sarah had believed in cosmic justice right up until cancer proved the universe didn't always reward the righteous. They emerged from the building's rear exit, moving quickly toward the truck. Jackson spotted a sedan he didn't recognize parked near the front entrance, two silhouettes visible inside. Kiana unlocked the doors as they approached. Lily climbed into the back seat, her eyes widening when she saw the well-dressed stranger in front. "Hi," Kiana said gently. "You must be Lily. I'm Kiana." "Are you the someone Daddy helped?" "Yes, I am. Your father is very brave." Lily nodded seriously. "I know. He's the bravest person in the whole world." Jackson started the truck, backing out carefully. The sedan's headlights flickered on as they passed, and he watched in the rearview mirror as it pulled out to follow them. "We've got company," he muttered. "What do we do?" "Hold on." Jackson had grown up in these neighborhoods, had spent his teenage years running from truant officers and later from MPs when he'd snuck off base. He knew every shortcut, every alley, every route the average person wouldn't think to take. He drove through a narrow passage between two apartment buildings, the truck's mirrors nearly scraping the walls. The sedan tried to follow but couldn't fit, forced to go around. By the time they found another way through, Jackson had already taken 3 more turns, doubling back twice before heading east toward Aurora. "Are they gone?" Kiana kept checking the side mirror. "For now. They'll find us eventually, if we stay visible." He glanced at Lily in the rearview mirror. She'd pulled out her homework, using the streetlights to read as if this were just another evening drive. The normalcy of it hurt. The storage facility was in an industrial area, surrounded by warehouses and auto body shops that had closed for the night. Kiana directed him to a unit in the back, using a key she'd hidden in her jacket lining. "This is yours?" Jackson asked, looking at the nondescript metal door. "Company asset, but only I know about it. Set it up 5 years ago when I first started suspecting someone might be stealing from us. Kept all the sensitive documents here instead of the main office." She unlocked the door, revealing a surprisingly spacious interior lined with file boxes. In the back corner sat a small office setup, desk, mini fridge, and a worn leather couch. "It's not much." "It's perfect," Jackson interrupted. "No connection to either of us, no paper trail for Drake to follow." They settled in, and Jackson finally had a moment to process the day. This morning, he'd been at the Phoenix airport, disappointed but hopeful. Tonight, he was hiding in a storage unit with a CEO who had a price on her head, and his 6-year-old daughter who deserved so much better than this. Lily explored the space with the adaptability of someone who'd learned early that life rarely went as planned. She claimed the couch, spreading out her homework and stuffed astronaut like she was settling in for a normal evening. Kiana watched her with an expression Jackson couldn't quite read. "She's handling this remarkably well. She's had practice with upheaval." Jackson pulled out his wallet, counting the $43 he had left. "Her mother died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. By the time they caught it, there was nothing to do but make her comfortable. Lily spent 6 months watching her mom waste away, being brave when Sarah needed her to be brave. This is probably a vacation compared to that. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating." "It was. Still is some days." He tucked the money away. "But Lily keeps me going, gives me a reason to get up every morning and pretend I've got it all together." "You seem like you have it together." Jackson laughed without humor. "Lady, I just lost my job. I'm down to my last $40, and I'm hiding in a storage unit because I witnessed a kidnapping. If this is together, I'd hate to see falling apart." Kiana was quiet for a moment. Then, "The $75,000 I promised you. I meant it. Once I can access my account safely, it's yours. More, if you need it. I don't want charity." "It's not charity. You saved my life, and now you're protecting it. That's worth far more than $75,000. She pulled up a file box, sitting on it like a chair. "Can I tell you something? Don't see why not. We're apparently stuck together for the foreseeable future." Vincent Drake joined Nexus Biotech 7 years ago. I hired him personally. He had an impressive resume, connections to venture capital, and a vision for expansion that aligned with mine. She stared at her hands. "For years I thought we were partners, building something meaningful together. The company went from 30 employees to 3,000. Revenue grew from 12 million to over $1 billion. I trusted him completely." "When did you figure out he was stealing?" 3 days ago. I came back early from a conference in Seattle, decided to review our quarterly financials personally instead of waiting for Vincent's summary. Found discrepancies in our pharmaceutical licensing contracts. Started digging and discovered he'd been funneling money into shell companies for over 5 years. $90 million, maybe more. Jackson whistled low. "That's not embezzlement. That's systematic looting. He wasn't just stealing money. He was selling our research data to competitors, compromising drug trials, putting patients at risk for profit." Her voice cracked. "People could die because of what he's done. People probably already have." "So you were flying to San Francisco to report him to the board?" "And the FBI. I have contacts there, people I trust, or thought I trusted." She laughed bitterly. Turns out Vincent's been monitoring my communications. He knew I'd found evidence. He knew I was going to the authorities. The kidnapping at the airport was his last-ditch effort to stop me. From the couch, Lily spoke up without looking away from her homework. Bad people always think they can win if they're scary enough. But Mom said being scary just means you're afraid inside. Both adults turned to look at her. She continued working on her math problems, seemingly unaware of the profound simplicity of her observation. Your daughter is wise beyond her years, Kiana said softly. Gets it from her mother. Jackson stood, moving to the small window that looked out over the parking area. Empty, except for their truck. So, what's our next move? We can't hide here forever. We get the evidence to the right people. People Vincent hasn't compromised. Kiana pulled out the flash drive she'd shown Detective Hayes. Everything's on here, but I need to make copies. Distribute them to multiple sources simultaneously so Vincent can't suppress the information. And how do we do that without accessing the internet, which he can monitor? There's a 24-hour business center on Colfax. Public computers, no login required if you pay cash. Jackson checked his wallet again. I've got $43. I have emergency cash in my jacket. About $600, it'll be enough. Daddy, Lily called from the couch. I'm hungry. Reality crashed back in. His daughter hadn't eaten since lunch, and here he was planning covert operations like he knew what he was doing. There's a convenience store 2 blocks over, Kiana said. I saw it when we drove in. We could get supplies. Too risky. They're looking for us. Then I'll go alone. They're looking for me, not some random customer. Absolutely not. You don't leave my sight until this is over. They stared at each other, and Jackson realized they were both operating on adrenaline and fear, making decisions that might get them all killed. I'll go, he said finally. You stay here with Lily. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me, and I'll knock like this. He demonstrated the same rhythm he'd used at Mrs. Yates's door. What if they find you? Then you take Lily and run. Use the money to get far away and start over. Don't look back. Before Kiana could argue, Jackson grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. But Lily's voice stopped him. Daddy, wait. She'd gotten up from the couch, moving to stand in front of him with her arms crossed, 6 years old and already perfecting the stubborn stance her mother had wielded like a superpower. You have to come back. Promise. Baby, I can't promise. Promise. Her voice was firm. Mom promised she'd fight the cancer and she did. She fought really hard even when it hurt. You can promise to fight hard too. Jackson knelt down, pulling her into a hug. Okay, I promise. I'll fight hard and come back. Good. She kissed his cheek. And bring chips, the spicy kind. Despite everything, despite the danger and fear and impossibility of their situation, Jackson found himself smiling. Spicy chips, got it. As he stepped into the night, leaving his daughter in the care of a stranger he'd met 6 hours ago, Jackson realized his life had become completely unrecognizable. But maybe that wasn't entirely bad. Maybe sometimes you had to lose everything to find out what you were really capable of. The convenience store run went smoothly. No suspicious vehicles, no men in dark suits. He returned 20 minutes later with sandwiches, chips, spicy, and enough supplies to last them a couple of days. They ate in companionable silence, Lily chattering between bites about a project at school while Kiana listened with genuine interest. Watching them, Jackson felt an unexpected warmth. For just a moment, they almost felt like a family. Then his burner phone buzzed. a text from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Sullivan, you have something that belongs to me. Return Miss Ford by midnight, and no harm will come to you or your daughter. Refuse, and I'll make sure Lily grows up without a father. You have 3 hours. Choose wisely. The message included a photo. Mrs. Yates's apartment building, time-stamped 15 minutes ago. They'd found his home. They knew about Lily, and now they were giving him a choice. Betray Kiana or risk his daughter's life. Jackson looked at Lily, innocently eating her sandwich and swinging her legs from the couch. Then at Kiana, who'd gone pale reading the message over his shoulder. 3 hours to decide if he was the kind of man who could live with whatever choice he made. The night had just gotten a lot more complicated. Jackson stared at the text message, his jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. The photo of Mrs. Yates's building glowed on the screen like a threat carved in light. 3 hours. They were giving him 3 hours to hand over Kiana or lose everything. We should call the police, Kiana whispered, though her voice carried no conviction. The police who let Drake post bail in under an hour. The ones he probably has on his payroll. Jackson set the phone down carefully, fighting the urge to crush it. No, we handle this ourselves. How? He knows where you live. He's threatening your daughter. He's threatening the idea of threatening her. There's a difference. Jackson moved to the window, scanning the empty parking lot. Drake is a businessman. He operates through intimidation and leverage. Actually harming Lily would bring heat he can't afford. Federal kidnapping charges, manhunts, media attention. Right now he's counting on fear to make me compliant. And if you're wrong? The question hung in the air between them. Jackson thought about Lily on the couch, oblivious to the dangers swirling around her, finishing her homework with the same focus Sarah had always praised. His daughter deserved a father who would move heaven and earth to keep her safe. But she also deserved a father who stood up to bullies. I'm not wrong, he said finally. Drake wants you alive for now. Dead, you become a martyr, and the evidence still exists. He needs to control the narrative, make you disappear quietly. That takes time and planning, neither of which he has. Kiana absorbed this, her business mind working through the logic. So we force his hand, make him act publicly where he can't hide. Exactly. We go on a fence. How? Jackson pulled out the cash from his pocket. You said there's a business center on Colfax. We upload your evidence to every news outlet, regulatory agency, and law enforcement division we can think of. Flood the zone so Drake can't suppress it all. He'll know it came from me. That's the point. Once the information is public, you're more valuable alive to confirm its authenticity. Killing you just validates the evidence. That's a huge gamble. You have a better idea? Kiana looked at Lily, who'd moved on from homework to drawing pictures of rockets. What about her? If we provoke Vincent, he might escalate. Then we make sure she's somewhere he can't reach. Jackson pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts until he found one he hadn't called in 2 years. Tommy Chen, his old army buddy who'd moved to Montana after discharge. I know someone. Owes me a favor big enough that he won't ask questions. The call connected on the 3rd ring. Jax, man, it's been forever. Tommy, I need help. Big help. Are you still in Billings? Yeah, running a security consulting firm. Why? I need you to pick up a package for me. Keep it safe for a few days. No questions asked. There was a pause. What kind of package? The kind that means everything to me. Another pause, longer this time. Then, when and where? Tonight. I'll text you coordinates. Jackson felt tension ease fractionally from his shoulders. Tommy, I can't explain right now, but this is life or death. Say no more, I'll be there. After hanging up, Jackson explained the plan to Kiana. Billings is 7 hours north. Tommy will meet us halfway in 3 hours at a truck stop in Cheyenne. He'll take Lily to his place where she'll be safe. We stay here and release the evidence. You'd send her away with someone she's never met? I'd send her to the moon if it kept her safe. Tommy is solid. Saved my life in Kandahar, and I saved his in Kabul. He'll protect her like she's his own. Kiana studied him for a long moment. You're not what I expected when I looked for help this morning. What did you expect? Someone more uncertain, more afraid. I'm terrified, Jackson admitted. But fear doesn't help my daughter. Action does. He turned to Lily, kneeling beside the couch. Hey, kiddo. How would you like to go on an adventure? Lily looked up from her drawing, eyes bright. What kind of adventure? The kind where you meet one of Daddy's old friends. His name is Tommy and he lives in Montana. Has a big ranch with horses. Real horses? The realest. You'd stay with him for a few days while Daddy helps Kiana with something important. Lily's expression shifted, the brightness dimming. You're sending me away because of the bad people. Sometimes her perception cut right through his carefully constructed explanations. Yes, baby. Just for a little while. To keep you safe. What about keeping you safe? Kiana and I will look out for each other. But I need to know you're somewhere the bad people can't find you. Can you be brave for me? Lily set down her crayon, her small face serious. Will you promise to come get me when it's over? I promise, cross my heart. He made the gesture, the same one Sarah had used. Okay. Lily hugged him tight. But you have to promise to be careful. Mom's not here to remind you anymore. The words hit harder than any threat Drake could make. I promise. They packed quickly, Lily chattering about horses in Montana, while Jackson and Kiana loaded supplies into the truck. The drive to Cheyenne took 2 hours, every mile spent checking mirrors for tails. Jackson took random exits, doubled back twice, used every evasion technique he remembered from tactical training. The truck stop sat just off I-25, a sprawling complex of gas pumps, restaurants, and parking for long-haul truckers. Jackson spotted Tommy immediately, a mountain of a man leaning against a black pickup, arms crossed. Uncle Tommy. Lily ran to him before Jackson could stop her. Tommy caught her easily, swinging her up. Hey there, Rocket Girl. Your dad's told me all about you. He has? Says you're going to be an astronaut someday. That true? Lily nodded enthusiastically, and just like that, she was won over. Jackson felt the knot in his chest loosen slightly. Tommy, this is Kiana Ford. Kiana, Tommy Chen. Tommy shook her hand, his expression neutral, but his eyes asking questions Jackson couldn't answer yet. Ma'am, thank you for doing this, Kiana said. I know it's asking a lot. Jax doesn't ask unless it matters. That's enough for me. Tommy turned to Jackson. How bad is it? Bad enough that I'm sending Lily 7 hours away. Stay off main roads, change vehicles if you can. Don't use credit cards. Someone's looking for us and they have resources. Corporate trouble? The worst kind. Tommy nodded once. Consider it handled. Lily, you ready to see some real Montana sky? As they loaded Lily's things into Tommy's truck, she hugged Jackson one more time. Don't forget your promise. Never. He kissed the top of her head. I love you, baby girl. Love you too, Daddy. Watching Tommy's taillights disappear north, Jackson felt the last piece of his normal life drive away. Now it was just him and Kiana against Drake's empire. She'll be safe, Kiana said quietly. She better be. Because if anything happens to her, Drake won't need to worry about the FBI. He'll need to worry about me. They drove back to Denver in silence, the weight of what came next settling over them like a shroud. By the time they reached the business center on Colfax, it was past midnight. The place was nearly empty, just a few night shift workers and insomniacs using the public computers. Jackson paid cash for 2 hours of computer time, while Kiana loaded the flash drive. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, uploading files to the FBI, SEC, FDA, and every major news outlet she could think of. "This is it," she said, finger hovering over the final send button. "Once I do this, there's no going back. Vincent will know I've declared war. Then let's make sure we win." Jackson placed his hand over hers. "Together." She clicked send. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kiana's email began flooding with automated responses, confirmation receipts, delivery notifications. The evidence was out there, spreading through digital networks faster than Drake could contain. Kiana's phone, a burner they'd bought at a gas station, rang almost immediately. She looked at the screen and went pale. "It's Vincent. Answer it. Put it on speaker." She did. Drake's voice filled the quiet space between them, cold and measured. "Kiana, I'm disappointed. We could have resolved this quietly. By killing me?" "Yes, very quiet. Dramatic as always. I was simply trying to help you see reason. The company is bigger than one person's moral outrage. The company is nothing without integrity. You destroyed that. I built that company as much as you did. More, actually. Your idealism would have bankrupted us within 3 years. I made the hard choices you were too weak to make. You stole $90 million and sold our research to competitors. That's not hard choices, Vincent. That's betrayal." A pause, then, "Where's the girl?" Jackson's blood went cold. "What girl?" "Sullivan's daughter. Lily, age 6, attends Maple Grove Elementary, or she did until you pulled her out this afternoon. Where is she?" "Somewhere you'll never find her," Jackson said. "Ah, the hero speaks. Tell me, Mr. Sullivan, was saving Miss Ford worth losing your job? Your home? Your daughter's stability? Worth not being a coward who hides behind hired thugs?" Drake laughed. Brave words from a man with $43 to his name. "I've already frozen Miss Ford's accounts, called in favors with banks, credit card companies, even her investment portfolios. She can't access a penny. How long do you think you can protect her with pocket change and borrowed courage?" The line went dead. Kiana stared at the phone, then at Jackson. "He's cut me off from everything. I can't pay you. Can't pay for anything. Guess we're both broke then." Jackson stood, pulling her up with him. "Come on, we need to move before he traces this location." "Where do we go?" "Same place broke people always go. We improvise." The all-night diner on East Colfax smelled of burnt coffee and decades of grease. But it was warm and anonymous. Jackson slid into a corner booth while Kiana ordered 2 coffees with the last of their cash. Neither of them had slept in 24 hours, and exhaustion made everything feel surreal. "We need help," Kiana said, wrapping her hands around the steaming mug. "Real help. People Vincent can't touch. You know anyone like that?" She thought for a moment. "Maybe. Before I started Nexus, I worked at a pharmaceutical company in Chicago. There was a woman there, Rachel Okonkwo. She ran legal compliance and hated corruption with a passion. We kept in touch over the years. Would she help? If I can reach her? Vincent has my main phone, but Rachel's number is one of those things you memorize." Kiana borrowed Jackson's burner, dialing from memory. After 4 rings, a sleepy voice answered. This better be good. Rachel, it's Kiana Ford. Silence. Then, Kiana, do you know what time it is? I know, and I'm sorry, but I need help. Serious help. The sleep left Rachel's voice immediately. What happened? Kiana explained quickly, efficiently. Rachel listened without interrupting until the story was finished. You uploaded everything already? An hour ago. Every news outlet and regulatory agency I could think of. Good. That's good. Rachel's tone shifted to business mode. You need 3 things: protection, legal representation, and a way to stay alive until the authorities move. I can help with 2 of those. Which 2? Legal and connections. I know prosecutors at the FBI who aren't on anyone's payroll. Real straight arrows who hate corporate fraud. As for protection, that's harder. If Drake has the resources you say he does, professional security is expensive. We don't have expensive. Jackson cut in. We have about $12 and a truck that might make it another 1,000 miles. Who's this? Jackson Sullivan, the guy who saved Kiana's life at the airport. And stayed to help? You're either very noble or very stupid. Little of both, Jackson admitted. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Okay. I'm getting dressed and catching the first flight to Denver. Should be there by noon. Don't go anywhere public. Don't use credit cards. Don't trust anyone. I'll call when I land. After hanging up, Kiana looked marginally more hopeful. Rachel's good. If anyone can help navigate the legal side, it's her. That handles the authorities. What about Drake's people on the ground? I don't know. We can't exactly hire private security. Jackson thought about his old life. The people he'd known before Sarah's death had consumed everything. There was Miguel, who ran a garage on the south side. Carmen, who worked dispatch for a private ambulance company and knew everyone in the city. And there was Dante. Dante Bishop had served with Jackson in Afghanistan, same unit, same hellish deployment. After discharge, Dante had gone into private security, building a small firm that operated on reputation rather than advertising. He was expensive, but he also had a code. Protect the innocent. Stand against the powerful. Never take corporate money. I might know someone, Jackson said slowly, but I haven't talked to him in 3 years, not since Sarah's funeral. Would he help? If I can convince him it's righteous work? Maybe. He called from the diner's payphone, feeding quarters and hoping the number hadn't changed. After 6 rings, Dante's voice came through, rough with sleep. This is Bishop. Dante, it's Jackson Sullivan. A long pause. Jax, man, it's been forever. You okay? No, I need your help. The kind we used to give each other downrange. The sleep left Dante's voice. Talk to me. Jackson explained the situation, leaving nothing out. When he finished, Dante was quiet for so long Jackson thought the line had gone dead. Let me get this straight, Dante said finally. You witnessed a kidnapping, saved a CEO, and now a corrupt executive is hunting both of you? That's the summary. And you sent your daughter to Montana with Tommy. How'd you know about Tommy? He called me 2 hours ago, said you were in deep and might need backup, wanted to coordinate in case things went sideways. Relief flooded through Jackson. So you'll help? Brother, I'm already geared up. Where are you? They arranged a meeting at a warehouse Dante owned in Commerce City, a location Drake wouldn't know about. As they left the diner, Kiana grabbed Jackson's arm. Why are all these people helping us? They don't know me. They're risking everything. They're not doing it for you. They're doing it because I asked, and because they know I wouldn't ask unless it mattered. He held her gaze. That's what real loyalty looks like. Not the bought kind Drake traffics in, but the earned kind. The warehouse was exactly what Jackson expected. Utilitarian, secure, and stocked with enough equipment to outfit a small military unit. Dante met them at the door. Older and grayer than Jackson remembered, but still carrying himself like the operator he'd been. They embraced briefly, the kind of hug reserved for brothers who'd seen too much together. Kiana Ford. Meet Dante Bishop. Best tactical mind I ever served with. Dante shook her hand. Ma'am, I've been following the news. Your evidence dump is causing quite a stir. 3 news networks have already picked up the story. That was fast. Corporate fraud involving pharmaceutical companies? The media loves this stuff. Dante led them inside. Problem is, Drake loves it less. My contacts say he's mobilized serious resources. Professional contractors, the kind who don't ask questions. How many? Jackson asked. At least a dozen. Maybe more. Dante pulled up surveillance photos on a laptop. They've been sweeping the city, checking hotels, motels, known associates. They know you're here somewhere. Kiana studied the photos. I recognize some of these men. They work for a security firm Vincent contracts with. Blackwell Solutions. Blackwell's dirty, Dante confirmed. They've been involved in corporate espionage, witness intimidation, and rumored disappearances. If Drake hired them, he's not playing around anymore. So what do we do? Kiana asked. Dante smiled grimly. We fight back, but smart. I've called in favors from some old friends. Good people who believe in standing against corruption. He gestured to 3 others entering the warehouse. This is my team. Introductions were made quickly. Elena Vargas, former DEA agent, with intelligence connections. Marcus Way, communications specialist who could hack anything electronic. And Sarah Odom, field medic and logistics expert. We're small but efficient, Dante explained. Our plan is simple. Keep you both alive until the authorities move, which according to Rachel's FBI contacts should be within 48 hours. Drake's already being investigated, and your evidence accelerated everything. 48 hours? Jackson repeated. Can we last that long? With proper support, yes. Without it, no. Dante pulled up a tactical map of Denver. We need to keep moving, stay unpredictable, and make Drake's people work for every inch. Tire them out, stretch their resources. Eventually, they'll make mistakes. What about going public? Kiana suggested. If I hold a press conference, state everything on camera, Drake loses his leverage. Killing me after that just confirms everything. Dante considered this. Risky. You'd be exposed, vulnerable. Drake could make a move during the conference. So we make sure he can't. Jackson looked at the assembled team. We control the location, the timing, the security. Forced Drake to either accept defeat or expose himself trying to stop us. Elena spoke up. There's a community center in Capitol Hill. I know the director. We could secure it, control access, have media present as witnesses. When? Kiana asked. Tomorrow afternoon. Gives us time to prepare and spread word to legitimate press. They spent the next hours planning, coordinating, preparing for every contingency. As dawn broke over Denver, Jackson finally allowed himself to hope. They had a team, a plan, and momentum shifting in their direction. Maybe, just maybe, they could actually win this. The Capitol Hill Community Center buzzed with anticipation as journalists filled the rows of folding chairs. Cameras lined the back wall, and the energy in the room felt electric. Kiana stood backstage, reviewing her statement while Jackson and Dante's team ran final security checks. We've got eyes on every entrance, Dante reported through the earpiece. Elena's monitoring police frequencies. Marcus has control of the building's security system. If Drake's people make a move, we'll see them coming. What about outside? Jackson asked. 2 of my guys on the roof with long-range surveillance. Nothing gets close without us knowing. Kiana emerged from the dressing area, wearing a borrowed suit that Rachel had brought from Chicago. She looked every inch the CEO again, composed and professional, though Jackson could see the tension in her shoulders. You ready for this? He asked. No, but we're doing it anyway. She managed a tight smile. Rachel's FBI contacts are in the audience. If Vincent tries anything, it'll be federal charges on top of everything else. He won't. He's too smart for that. But even as Jackson said it, he felt the familiar pre-combat tension settling into his gut. Something was coming. He just didn't know what. The press conference began at 2 p.m. sharp. Rachel introduced Kiana, providing context about Nexus Biotech and the allegations of fraud. Then Kiana took the podium, and the room fell silent. My name is Kiana Ford, and I'm the founder and CEO of Nexus Biotech, she began, her voice strong and clear. 3 days ago, I discovered that my chief operating officer, Vincent Drake, has been systematically stealing from the company and compromising our research. The total theft exceeds $90 million. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward, recording every word. But the money is just part of it. Kiana continued. Vincent has been selling our proprietary research to competitors, manipulating drug trials, and putting patients at risk. People's lives have been endangered for profit. I have provided comprehensive evidence to the FBI, SEC, and FDA. This evidence includes financial records, email communications, and recorded conversations. A reporter raised his hand. Ms. Ford, Mr. Drake posted bail yesterday after being arrested for your attempted kidnapping. What's your response? My response is that posting bail doesn't erase guilt. Vincent Drake tried to have me killed to prevent this information from becoming public. He failed. And now the world knows what he's done. Another reporter. Are you concerned for your safety? Of course. But I'm more concerned about justice, about making sure. The lights went out. For 3 seconds, the room plunged into absolute darkness. Then emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in harsh red. Dante's voice crackled through the earpiece. We've got movement. East entrance. 4 men trying to breach. Jackson was already moving, positioning himself between Kiana and the main entrance. The FBI agents in the audience stood, hands moving to holstered weapons. Rachel pulled Kiana behind the podium. Then the main doors burst open. But it wasn't Drake's contractors. It was uniformed FBI agents, at least a dozen of them, led by a woman in a crisp suit holding a badge high. Nobody move! FBI! The room erupted in chaos. Reporters surged forward. Cameras swung toward the entrance. The lead agent made her way to the podium, her expression grim. Kiana Ford? Yes. I'm Special Agent Victoria Hayes. We have a warrant for Vincent Drake's arrest on charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit murder. We've also secured warrants for 3 members of his security team. She lowered her voice. The evidence you provided was compelling. We've been building a case for weeks, but your information accelerated everything. You've arrested him? 20 minutes ago at his office. He's in custody now, along with several associates. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. Your press conference provided excellent cover for the operation. The tension in the room shifted instantly from fear to elation. Reporters began shouting questions at Hayes, who held up a hand for silence. We'll be making an official statement shortly. For now, Ms. Ford, I need you to come with us for formal testimony. Am I under arrest? No. But we have a lot of questions, and you have a lot of answers. As FBI agents began clearing the room, Jackson found himself standing next to Kiana, both of them processing what had just happened. They'd won. Against impossible odds, with no resources and every advantage stacked against them, they'd actually won. Is it really over? Kiana asked quietly. The immediate threat, yeah. But there'll be trials, testimony, probably months of legal proceedings. I can handle that. She turned to face him. Jackson, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life multiple times. You risked everything. You would have done the same. Maybe. But most people wouldn't have. She hesitated. The $75,000 I promised you. Once the FBI unfreezes my accounts, it's yours. And I meant what I said about more if you need it. Jackson thought about the number, about what it could mean for Lily's future. College fund, stable housing, security they'd never had before. But he also thought about how he'd gotten here, about the choice he'd made to help a stranger because it was right. Keep the money, he said. What? Use it to rebuild Nexus properly, without corruption, the kind of company that actually helps people instead of exploiting them. He smiled. That's worth more than any paycheck. Jackson, I need a job and a fresh start. The money won't fix what's broken in my life. Work will, purpose will. He held her gaze. But I won't say no to a reference. Something that explains the gap in my employment to potential employers. Kiana laughed, and it was the first genuine sound of joy he'd heard from her. I think I can manage that. As FBI agents escorted them to separate vehicles for testimony, Jackson caught Dante's eye. His old friend gave him a thumbs up and a nod that said more than words could. The drive to the FBI field office took 30 minutes. Jackson spent it staring out the window at Denver passing by, the city where everything had changed in less than 72 hours. Somewhere north in Montana, Lily was safe with Tommy. Somewhere in this building, Vincent Drake was learning that money and power had limits. And somewhere in Jackson's future was a new chapter, one that didn't involve desperation and double shifts. He didn't know what it looked like yet, but for the first time in 3 years, he felt something dangerous stirring in his chest. Hope. 2 weeks after Vincent Drake's arrest, Jackson stood in the lobby of Nexus Biotech headquarters, feeling completely out of place. The building was all glass and chrome, the kind of corporate temple that represented everything foreign to his blue-collar world. Security had called him that morning with an urgent message from Kiana. Come immediately. Bring Dante. Lily was back home safely, having returned from Montana with stories about horses and Tommy's ranch. Mrs. Yates had moved back from her sister's place. Life had almost returned to normal, except Jackson still woke up checking for threats that weren't there anymore. Dante arrived moments later, his expression grim. You get the call too? Yeah. Any idea what this is about? Nothing good. Kiana sounded scared on the phone. They found her in the executive conference room, surrounded by lawyers and looking more shaken than she had during the kidnapping. Rachel sat beside her, face pale. Thank you for coming, Kiana said. We have a problem, a big one. She pulled up a document on the screen. Drake wasn't working alone. The FBI discovered he was partnered with someone higher up the chain, Jonathan Whitmore. Jackson recognized the name from news reports. The judge who signed Drake's bail? Not just any judge, Whitmore sits on the Colorado Supreme Court. He's been Drake's silent partner for 8 years, taking cuts from the embezzlement and providing legal protection in exchange. Kiana's hands shook slightly. The FBI arrested him this morning. 2 hours later, my lead attorney received death threats. Then Rachel's office in Chicago was broken into. Nothing stolen, just a message left on her desk. Rachel slid a photo across the table. A single sentence written in red marker. Drop the case or drop dead. Whitmore has connections Drake never had, Kiana continued. Political allies, organized crime ties, resources that make Drake look like an amateur. His lawyer filed for bail this afternoon, and there's a real chance he'll get it. From who? Dante asked. Every judge in Colorado should recuse themselves. They brought in a federal judge from Nevada. Someone Whitmore allegedly has leverage over. Rachel's voice was tight with anger. We're dealing with corruption that goes deeper than anyone realized. Jackson felt his jaw clench. So Drake was just the visible part. Exactly. Whitmore has been pulling strings for years, using Drake as his front man. Now that Drake's caught, Whitmore's moving to eliminate anyone who can testify against him. Kiana looked at Jackson directly. That includes you. You're listed as a witness. Your testimony about the kidnapping attempt is crucial to the conspiracy charges. Let him try. Jackson's voice was flat. I'm not backing down because some corrupt judge is scared. It's not just about backing down. Whitmore has made people disappear before. The FBI found evidence of at least 3 suspicious deaths connected to him over the past decade. Witnesses who changed their testimony or vanished entirely. The room fell silent. This was different from Drake's desperate attempts to silence them. This was systematic, institutional corruption with decades of practice. What do we do? Rachel asked. Dante spoke up. We treat this like an insurgency. Whitmore's power comes from operating in shadows, using intermediaries. We shine light on everything, make it impossible for him to move without exposure. How? Kiana asked. We go public again. Document everything. Create a paper trail so extensive that making any of us disappear would be obviously connected to him. Dante pulled out his tablet. I know investigative journalists who specialize in judicial corruption. We feed them information, keep the pressure constant. That makes us targets, Rachel pointed out. We're already targets, Jackson said. At least this way we control the narrative. Kiana nodded slowly. Okay, but we need protection. Real protection this time. Dante, can your team handle extended security? For all of you, that's expensive. We're talking 24-hour coverage, multiple locations. I'll pay whatever it costs. Kiana's voice was steel. Whitmore thinks he can intimidate us into silence. Let's show him he's wrong. As they planned their counteroffensive, Jackson's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your daughter goes to Maple Grove Elementary. Recess is at 2 p.m., such an unprotected time for young ones. The blood drained from his face. They weren't just threatening him anymore. They were threatening Lily directly. Kiana saw his expression. What is it? He showed her the message. Her face went pale. Get Lily, Dante said immediately. Bring her here. This building has security. We'll coordinate with the school, set up protection. Jackson was already moving toward the door. This ends now. I don't care how powerful Whitmore is. Nobody threatens my daughter. As he raced toward Maple Grove Elementary, weaving through traffic with his heart in his throat, Jackson realized the stakes had just become infinitely higher. Drake had been dangerous. Whitmore was deadly. And somewhere in Denver, a man who'd spent decades avoiding consequences was about to learn that some people couldn't be scared into submission. The safe house Dante secured was an unassuming ranch home in Lakewood, the kind of middle-class neighborhood where nobody paid attention to their neighbors. Lily adapted with a resilience Jackson both admired and hated, turning the situation into another adventure. She didn't fully understand why they couldn't go home, but she trusted her father enough not to ask too many questions. Kiana had moved in too, along with Rachel. 3 adults and 1 6-year-old, protected by Dante's rotating security team, planning their offensive against a corrupt judge with more power than any of them had imagined. Whitmore owns a private investment firm, Rachel explained, spreading documents across the dining table while Lily colored in the living room. It's how he launders his cuts from various schemes. I've been digging through public records and the numbers don't add up. He's reporting income that doesn't match his judicial salary. Can we prove it? Kiana asked. With subpoenas, yes. Without them, it's circumstantial. Rachel tapped her pen against the table. But circumstantial can be powerful in the court of public opinion. We leak this to the right. Journalists, let them start asking questions. Jackson watched from the kitchen where he was making coffee. Over the past 2 weeks, he'd learned more about corporate investigation than he ever wanted to know. But he'd also discovered he had a talent for seeing patterns, for connecting dots that others missed. His tactical training translated surprisingly well to information warfare. What about his political connections? Jackson asked. You said he has allies in the state legislature. At least 5 senators and a dozen representatives who've received campaign contributions from his firm, Rachel confirmed. All public record, all technically legal. But suspicious when combined with his judicial decisions, Kiana added. Cases he's ruled on that benefited those same politicians. It's a quid pro quo network. Dante entered through the back door, having completed his perimeter check. We've got movement. Black sedan did 2 passes in the last hour. Different drivers, same vehicle. Surveillance? Jackson asked. Probably. They're trying to establish our patterns, figure out our security rotation. Dante smiled grimly. Joke's on them. We don't have patterns. Over the next week, they executed their plan with precision. Rachel fed information to investigative journalists at the Denver Post and Colorado Independent. Stories began appearing, each one raising questions about Whitmore's finances, his judicial decisions, his connections to Drake. The judge responded predictably, issuing statements through his lawyer calling the coverage a witch hunt and trial by media. But the pressure was working. Federal investigators expanded their probe into Whitmore's activities. 2 senators quietly returned his campaign contributions. Kiana spent her days rebuilding Nexus from the safe house, conducting video conferences and making decisions that would reshape the company. She'd fired the entire executive team Drake had assembled, bringing in new leadership committed to actual ethics. Jackson watched her transformation with quiet admiration. She was becoming the CEO she'd always claimed to be. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Kiana found Jackson on the back porch, keeping watch. You don't have to do this, she said softly. Dante's team is here. You could rest. Can't. Not while Whitmore's still free. The FBI says they're close to bringing formal charges. Maybe another week. A lot can happen in a week. Jackson kept his eyes on the dark yard. People like Whitmore don't go down easy. They fight dirty until the very end. Kiana sat beside him. Can I ask you something? Why did you stay? After Drake was arrested, you could have walked away, taken Lily somewhere safe, and let the rest of us handle Whitmore. Because walking away would have meant Whitmore wins. He'd intimidate the next witness and the next, until nobody was willing to stand against him. Jackson finally looked at her. My daughter is watching how I handle this, What kind of man am I, teaching her to be if I run when things get hard? She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the reason I get up every morning and try to be better than I was the day before. They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of shared struggle creating a bond neither had expected. Somewhere in the fight against Drake and now Whitmore, they'd become more than allies. They'd become friends. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Whitmore's bail hearing was scheduled for the following day. If he made bail, the threats would escalate from surveillance to direct action. They had 24 hours to make their final move. Rachel called an emergency meeting. We have one chance to influence this. The bail hearing is public. If we can demonstrate to the judge that Whitmore is an active threat, has been continuing his intimidation campaign, they might deny bail. We have documentation of the threats, Kiana said. Texts, emails, the break-in at your office. Not enough. We need something concrete. Proof that links Whitmore directly to ongoing criminal activity. Jackson had an idea. What if we make him show his hand? Everyone turned to look at him. He's been working through intermediaries, staying clean. What if we force him to act directly? Create a situation where he has to expose himself or lose everything? That's dangerous, Dante warned. Everything about this is dangerous. But Whitmore's weakness is arrogance. He thinks he's untouchable. Let's prove him wrong. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Rachel leaked information to a journalist known to be in Whitmore's pocket, claiming that a key witness had evidence directly linking the judge to Drake's embezzlement scheme. The witness, fictitious but convincingly detailed, was supposedly ready to testify at the bail hearing tomorrow. Whitmore took the bait within hours. Dante's surveillance team recorded 3 separate meetings at a warehouse near the airport. Whitmore himself attended the final one, a fatal mistake for someone trying to maintain plausible deniability. We've got him on tape hiring contractors to intimidate the witness, Dante reported, playing the audio. Whitmore's voice was crystal clear. I don't care what it costs. That testimony cannot happen. Make it go away. That's conspiracy to obstruct justice, Rachel said triumphantly. Federal offense. This goes straight to the FBI tonight. But Jackson felt uneasy. It's too clean. Whitmore's been hiding his tracks for decades. Why would he suddenly expose himself like this? Desperation, Kiana suggested. He's cornered. Maybe. Or maybe he knows something we don't. The answer came at midnight, when Dante's security alarm triggered. Multiple vehicles approaching from different directions, moving with tactical precision. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was an assault. Everyone downstairs, Dante ordered, his team already moving to defensive positions. Now. They'd prepared for this scenario, converting the basement into a secure room with reinforced walls and a separate exit. Jackson grabbed Lily from her bed, the little girl waking confused and scared. It's okay, baby, just like we practiced. Upstairs, the sound of breaking glass, shouting, gunfire. Lily buried her face in Jackson's shoulder as they descended into the basement with Kiana and Rachel. Dante's voice crackled over the radio. Multiple hostiles, professional operators. They're not here to intimidate. They're here to eliminate. The basement doors sealed behind them with a heavy thunk. Reinforced steel that would buy them time, but not forever. Jackson could hear footsteps above, systematic searching. There's a tunnel, Kiana whispered, pointing to a hidden panel. Dante showed me. Leads to the neighbor's yard, 2 houses down. They moved quickly, quietly. The tunnel was narrow and dark, built during the Cold War by paranoid homeowners. It smelled of earth and decay, but represented their only chance of escape. Behind them, an explosion. The basement door had been breached. "Go, go, go," Jackson urged, pushing them forward. Lily was crying silently now, her small body trembling. He held her tight, whispering reassurances he wasn't sure he believed. They emerged in a stranger's backyard, the house dark and empty. Dante had arranged the neighbor's absence, another contingency in their elaborate planning. A vehicle waited at the curb, keys in the ignition. As they drove away, Jackson looked back to see flames engulfing the safe house. Dante and his team were still inside, holding off the attackers to buy them time. "We have to help them," Kiana said. "We help them by surviving," Jackson replied grimly. "That's what they're buying us. Time to end this." He drove to the one place Whitmore wouldn't expect, the federal courthouse. It was 2 a.m. and the building was closed, but the FBI maintained a 24-hour duty office for emergencies. Special Agent Hayes met them at the entrance, her expression shocked at their appearance. Bloodied, terrified, but alive. "Whitmore sent a hit squad to the safe house," Jackson said without preamble. "Dante Bishop and his team are there now, under attack. You need to send tactical units immediately." Hayes was already on her radio, mobilizing response teams. Within minutes, the courthouse filled with federal agents, marshals, and prosecutors. The assault on a protected witness location was a federal crime of the highest order, and now Whitmore had committed it with witnesses. "We have everything on tape," Rachel added, producing backup drives Dante had given them. Audio of Whitmore hiring the contractors, surveillance footage of tonight's attack, phone records linking him to the assault team leader. "Everything you need." Hayes looked at the evidence, then at them. "Judge Whitmore's bail hearing is in 6 hours. He'll be here in this building, expecting to walk free. Instead, we're going to arrest him on new federal charges. Conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, witness tampering." "Is Dante okay?" Kiana asked quietly. Hayes checked her radio. "Tactical teams just secured the location. 3 of Bishop's team have injuries, but nothing critical. They held the line until backup arrived. 6 attackers in custody." Relief flooded through Jackson so intensely his knees went weak. They'd made it. Against impossible odds, they'd survived and gathered the evidence needed to finally bring Whitmore down. The bail hearing became an arraignment on new charges. Whitmore arrived in handcuffs, his arrogance finally cracked, replaced by the dawning realization that his empire of corruption had crumbled. The judge denied bail, citing overwhelming evidence of ongoing criminal activity and flight risk. As federal marshals led Whitmore away, he locked eyes with Jackson one final time. There was no threat in his gaze now, just the hollow recognition of defeat. 6 months later, Jackson stood in the lobby of Nexus Biotech's newly renovated headquarters. The building had been transformed under Kiana's leadership, the culture shifting from cutthroat corporate warfare to something resembling actual integrity. She'd invited him to the grand reopening, though he almost hadn't come. His life had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined that day at the airport. The publicity from the Whitmore case had brought unexpected opportunities. A private security firm in Boulder offered him a position training their personnel, good pay and reasonable hours. He'd accepted, finally able to provide Lily the stability she deserved. Lily herself had thrived. The trauma of those weeks had faded, replaced by pride in her father's actions. She told anyone who'd listen about how her dad had saved a CEO and helped catch corrupt judges. Jackson had to gently remind her that some details were probably too much for show and tell. "You came." Kiana's voice broke through his thoughts. She looked different, more relaxed somehow. Success suited her when it was earned honestly. Figured I owed you a visit. See how the rebuilding turned out. Want the tour? She showed him through the facility, explaining the changes. A new ethics board with real authority. Transparent financial reporting, community investment programs. Nexus was becoming the company she'd always envisioned, before corruption had poisoned it. We're hiring, she mentioned casually as they walked. Head of security. Someone to build protocols that prevent what happened with Drake from ever happening again. Job's yours if you want it. Jackson stopped walking. Kiana, I'm not qualified for that. I'm not a corporate guy. That's exactly why you're perfect. You see through the facades, understand real threats versus manufactured ones. She met his eyes. Besides, I trust you. That's worth more than any resume. I have to think about Lily. Stability matters. This is stable. 6-figure salary, full benefits, college fund for Lily. And you'd be helping build something good. Protecting something worth protecting. Jackson thought about the shipping depot where he'd worked double shifts, the constant struggle to make ends meet. He thought about the man he'd become during those desperate weeks, discovering reserves of strength he hadn't known existed. Let me talk to Lily, he said finally. This affects her too. That evening, at their new apartment, a 2-bedroom in a better neighborhood, Jackson explained the offer. Lily listened seriously, her astronaut stuffed animal clutched in her arms. Would you be happy? She asked when he finished. I think so. It's important work. Would we still have time for dinosaur movies? Always time for dinosaur movies. Then you should do it, Daddy. Mom always said you should do work that matters. The simple wisdom of it hit him hard. Sarah had believed that, had lived it even when it cost them financially. Maybe it was time he honored that belief instead of just surviving. He called Kiana that night and accepted the position. The trial of Vincent Drake and Jonathan Whitmore became one of the largest corruption cases in Colorado history. Both men were convicted on multiple federal charges. Drake received 20 years. Whitmore, with his additional crimes and abuse of judicial authority, got 35. Rachel Okonkwo joined Nexus as general counsel, bringing her fierce commitment to justice to the company. Dante Bishop's security firm saw business boom after the publicity, though he maintained his code about only taking righteous contracts. On a Saturday morning, 3 months into his new job, Jackson took Lily to the park. She was on the swings, laughing as she pumped higher, when Kiana appeared with coffee and pastries. Thought I might find you here, she said, settling on the bench beside him. Lily's weekend ritual. Park, then the Natural History Museum to see the dinosaur exhibits for the 100th time. Sounds perfect. Kiana watched Lily swing, a soft smile on her face. Can I join you? The museum part, I mean. I haven't been since I was young. She'd love that. Fair warning, though, she'll quiz you on every dinosaur fact she knows. I'll take my chances. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily play. The morning sun was warm, the park full of families enjoying the weekend. Normal life, the kind Jackson had fought so hard to protect. Do you ever regret it? Kiana asked quietly. Getting involved that day at the airport? Jackson thought about everything they'd been through. The danger, the fear, the nights wondering if they'd survive. But he also thought about the man he'd become, the purpose he'd found, the life he was building for Lily. No, he said simply. Not for a second. Lily called out from the swings, waving excitedly. Daddy, look how high I'm going. I'm practically flying. I see you, baby. You're amazing. Kiana laughed. She really is something special. Yeah, she's everything. Later, as they walked through the museum with Lily providing enthusiastic commentary on Cretaceous period fauna, Jackson realized this was what happiness felt like. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of purpose. Not safety, but the courage to face whatever came next. He'd been a struggling single father working double shifts to survive. Now he was building something that mattered, protecting a company that actually tried to do good. He had meaningful work, financial security, and people who'd become family through shared trauma. Sometimes the hardest moments led to the best destinations. Sometimes helping a stranger changed everything. And sometimes doing the right thing cost everything, but returned something far more valuable. Lily grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the T-Rex skeleton. Come on, Daddy. I want to show Kiana the best part. As he let his daughter lead him forward, Kiana walking beside them, Jackson smiled. The airport seemed like a lifetime ago. That split-second decision to intervene in a stranger's kidnapping. It had cost him his old life, but given him a new one worth living. And that made all the difference. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.